Well, Gershon Baskin is Middle East Director with the International Communities Organization. He joins us live now from West Jerusalem. Why go into Rafah at all?
Well, there are two things that may be going on right now. This might be the launch of the Israeli incursion into Rafah that the Israeli government and army have been speaking about now for several months, where they believe that in order to defeat Hamas finally, they need to eliminate the 4 Hamas brigades that are between Khan Yunis and Rafah. And it is also believed by Israel that this is where the majority of the Israeli hostages, 132 of them, may be found. But it might not be the full incursion right now. It might just be a response to the launching yesterday by Hamas of mortars and rockets from a humanitarian zone into Israel, in which 3 Israeli soldiers were killed and 10 others were wounded, several of them in critical condition.
So, Netanyahu has said, that he's going into Rafah because he needs to destroy the 4 remaining Hamas battalions that are there. He has indicated that there's no way that they need to go there to access Hamas. But I suppose saying that in itself acknowledges that the last 7 or 8 months has been something of a failure, because they've not destroyed Hamas and they've not provided any of the sort of assassinations of high-level figures within the group. So I suppose that the worry is that military operation being a complete failure up to now will simply cause more humanitarian suffering in Rafah.
Right, there is no military victory in a war like this, and Israel needs to understand this. Hamas is an idea and an ideology that cannot be destroyed by military. There have to be political solutions to deal with the reality of Hamas and the reality of Gaza, and this is not being done. But I would also say to Hamas that if they want to prevent the Israeli incursion into Gaza, more death and destruction, unnecessarily death and destruction, Hamas should accept the deal that's on the table now, even if it doesn't meet all of their demands, because it will bring about a ceasefire and a halt to the war for weeks, maybe months. And certainly
Hamas did indicate that it would, Hamas did indicate that they would agree to the Egyptian proposal and move ahead with the first stage, but they were relying on guarantees that the war would end and there would not be an invasion of Hamas, which, of course, Netanyahu said would happen regardless of whether or not there's a deal.
Right, but I think that there won't be guarantees. No one can provide those guarantees, and Hamas wants Israel to declare that it will end the war, and that's not going to happen. So we're in a deadlock situation where Israel is continuing on with the war and the military incursion into Gaza, into Rafah, and this should be avoided. If Hamas just said yes now, they will get Palestinian prisoners freed. There will be a ceasefire. There will be free movement for displaced people in Gaza to move from the south to the north. And the Egyptians and the Qataris have all said that they will work hard together with the Americans and others to ensure that the war will not be renewed. But there's no guarantee.
There's no reason.
The best chance.
But there's no reason to believe that Palestinians would be released and the displaced people would be able to return. You've seen the incredible apocalyptic destruction of this tiny strip of land, where now a population of a couple of 100,000 in Rafah has become 1.5 million because of people who've had to shelter there. An invasion would ultimately push those people south towards Egypt. They could try to return, as you're saying. I guess you're saying they could try to return to central or northern Gaza. But of course, you know that they would face more attacks by the Israeli military, which has been attacking so-called safe zones. They kill everyone everywhere.
Well, I think that, as I said, the best way to prevent this from happening and to end the war is to begin with a ceasefire that will release Israeli hostages and release Palestinian prisoners and allow people free movement. There is no guarantee that would be the end of the war, and there would be no more provocations, not from Hamas and not from Israel. But the best way to move forward at this point is to accept the Egyptian deal that's on the table, even if it's less than perfect, get a ceasefire, and allow people the freedom to move a little bit, to breathe a little bit, to get food and medical supplies that they need. Again, there are no guarantees here. We're in the midst of a very, very evil war. But this needs to come to an end. Israel is not willing to surrender. Hamas is not willing to surrender. There is a ceasefire offer on the table. I suggest we all accept it and try to figure out how to end this war as soon as possible.
Gershon Baskin, thank you for joining us on the NewsHour.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.